All right, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let's do this. Shang-Chi is the story of a guy named Sean, or Shang-Chi, played by Simu Liu, who's living his life in San Francisco alongside his best friend Katie, who's played by Awkwafina. While they're riding the bus to work one day, this group of mysterious thugs goes ape on them and just attacks them. And in the process, they make a threat toward his sister Shang, and then he has to reunite with her and save her and brings Katie along for the ride. And from there on, we've got our movie. And one very interesting journey to boot. So what are my overall thoughts on this movie? I thought this movie was really solid. There's a lot of layers to really unpack about Shang-Chi as we get on with the movie and discover more about him and his family. There's a lot of humor present in this movie. They really explore some interesting concepts throughout. The identity the movie chose early on was consistent and really strong. And the chemistry between all the characters, especially Awkwafina and Shang-Chi, made it a really fun watch. So let's start off with what I really enjoyed about this movie. I really enjoyed the chemistry between Shang-Chi, or Sean, and his best friend Katie. The two of them together have this really interesting bond where they're very relatable. They're just living their lives like normal people. They like to go out, they like to have fun, and they like to live their lives, and it makes them a lot easier to root for and empathize with. And I get to give a lot of credit to both of them as actors, because the movie tells us that they are best friends and they go full send on it and really convince us as the audience that they are really best friends. And because of those excellent performances and that dynamic, it really makes them fun to watch throughout the movie, and they never overstay their welcome, especially the humor that comes with them. They are consistently funny throughout the entirety of the movie. And to really top the icing on the cake here, there's actually a point in this movie, you see this scene in the trailers where Shang-Chi is kind of fighting alongside this building. That in that particular scene, it kind of almost reminded me of a Rush Hour 2 moment. Like, there's a moment in this movie where you're like, oh yeah, definitely reminds me of Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan in Rush Hour, Awkwafina being Chris Tucker, Simu Liu being Jackie Chan. It's just when I put that meta moment together, it just made it even funnier. And like I said, the banter between the two characters really exists all movie long, never gets old, and a really nice supplement to that is actually Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley performs a small role in this movie, and I thought he was excellent addition and supplement to the humor piece of it all. And speaking into that, moving into the next thing I liked about this movie, the movie really maintains this identity of being really funny, really humorous, but also getting down to business when it needed to. And I just thought it really struck a nice chord with. In this movie, it kind of tells you, like, okay, there are serious times, there are serious consequences with serious situations, but it's a reminder in life never to take things too seriously. Like, as Awkwafina, as Katie, and Simu Liu as Shang-Chi are going through these trials and tribulations, they never forget to have fun. And to me, that just speaks to the message of never take yourself too seriously in life, because it's so short and you only get to live once. Get down to business when it's time, but don't forget to have fun in the process and don't lose yourself. And again, it really adds to that piece of them being super relatable, which I think is very rare for superhero characters. The fact that this superhero character could just be us, and to me it's just a really powerful message. Overall, it's just a really refreshing prospect that this movie struck very nicely with. And another thing I enjoyed about this movie, despite it being part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this movie does a really great job of standing on its own, which I have to give mad props to Kevin Feige and the whole entire Marvel team, because with them making 20 plus movies in this whole series, I think it's very hard to introduce new people like that at times, but they've done this great job of every movie could stand nearly on its own. If you have a friend who has never seen a Marvel movie and you want to bring them to this movie, they'll be able to follow along just fine, no strings attached, and they'll have a great time with you along the way. And the last thing I really enjoyed about this movie, there's a lot of different Asian cultural nods that this movie makes, along with interesting family dynamics, and they combine each other in such a way that makes the movie a lot more cathartic than I thought it would be. Touching on the cultural nods part of that critique, the fact that this movie is able to really exemplify Asian heritage in the fact of the way they dress, the way that their combat fighting style is, art, family styles, it's just something that was really cool, and I thought it was a really nice, unique touch to the movie, and it really brought me into it a lot more. It just felt really authentic and genuine in that regard. And diving deeper into the family dynamics part of that piece, it touches on really interesting issues like abandonment, grief, coping, and other family dynamics that just really hit home and just beg a lot of interesting questions for us as the audience. And even more so, the movie kind of touches upon how it could change and morph you into who you are over time, and I thought that was a really fascinating conversation to have. And even more so, considering that I would consider this as a Shang-Chi origin story, it kind of helps to touch upon that, because Shang-Chi is on this path to self-discovery, figuring out who he is, and I just really enjoyed that part because I'm a sucker for a good origin story. And I gotta say, this is the case for both Shang-Chi and his sister Shang. Them going through the trials and tribulations of their life and struggling with all these different themes and also concepts, It really morphs into who they are, and the movie does a good job of showcasing what odds they've had to overcome in order to get where they are and where they're going. They, of course, focus on Shang-Chi mainly in this movie, which is appropriate considering the movie is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but I'm glad they touched upon his sister just a little bit as well. And having said that, I thought Shang was actually a really interesting and dynamic character overall, and I think the beauty of this is they were able to showcase that without telling us too much. They built a lot of mystery around her, and it wouldn't shock me at all if Marvel one day announced that they had a spin-off series with Shang. I would be interested in something like that, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Point is, Shang is a really interesting dynamic character, and I thought really aided that brotherly sisterly bond of them kind of going through this whole situation together, and I just thought it was really fun to watch unfold. So with all that in mind, what did I not like so much about this movie? So for me, there's a point in this movie where it kind of comes to this screeching halt, not in terms of pace, but in terms of quality for me. The dialogue between some of the characters started to just drop below standard. It was just very clunky. It didn't make a ton of sense. And even some of the character decisions that they have, each of them make along the way, also didn't make any sense. And it was to the point where I think if they cut some of that out of the movie, it would have made this movie even better than what it already was. And it almost ruined the movie for me. I got a little worried that it was just going to take a nosedive. Luckily, the movie ended up picking back up again. And digging a little bit deeper within that, there's some things that they have the characters do and accomplish that I'm like, could they really do that in that time frame? It just, I wasn't really buying all the things that the movie was trying to sell to me, and it took me out of the movie. But at the end of the day, it didn't ruin the movie for me, but it got pretty darn close. And overall, and maybe this was by design, I didn't really care too much about the Ten Rings organization that they had in this movie. I thought all of them were just really pawns. Even the henchman in the movie was kind of uncharismatic and really uninteresting. Like I said, there's so much going on in this movie that they can't fit everything into this package. But all right, my friends, so with all that out of the way, if I had to give this movie a score, I'm going to say it is an 8 out of 10. It is a great time at the movies. Simu Liu and Awkwafina were excellent together on screen. Plenty of humor exists. Really interesting family dynamics and concepts were touched upon and explored, and also some very great cultural nods that made the movie a lot more wholesome and feel like a bigger experience. The movie does dip in quality at a point in this movie, but it continues back on its upward trajectory. So I'm going to say go ahead and see it. You won't be disappointed, and you're in for some great viewing. Alright, my friends, so have you seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings? If so, what did you think of it? Or where does it rank on your favorite Marvel movie list of all time? You know where the comment section is. Let me know. Friends, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, or check out any of these great playlists if you want to get in on the fun. This has been the Bankrupt Hippo YouTube channel. I've been Bryson. Until next time, have a great day.